If you have a website and you're a business owner, then this episode of the Marketing Wizards Inner Circle is going to rock your socks off. Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Marketing Wizards Inner Circle. My name is Michael Bridgman, and I am here with an incredible special guest today. This man has over 40 years of experience, wisdom, knowledge, expertise, and jam that he is going to be delivering over only 25 minutes today. And so you are in for a treat, my friends. If you have a website and you're a business owner, then this episode of the Marketing Wizards Inner Circle is going to rock your socks off. I am so excited and so happy to have with me Mr. James Hitkin from Innately Marketing. James, welcome to the Marketing Wizards Inner Circle, my friend. I am so happy to have you here.
Michael, I'm very, very happy to be here. I'm happy to have the opportunity to share 40 years of making mistakes. And
yeah. Hey, man, that's how they found wine. Remember?
Yep.
That's how they found wine. Beautiful. So now, James, you are, speaking of wine, you are coming to us from beautiful Nevada City, California. Am I right?
That's right. And it's kind of a little mini wine district. Doesn't have the reputation of some of the other areas in California, but we do make our wine up here.
Beautiful.
And it's in the Sierra Mountain foothills, about an hour away from Lake Tahoe.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. So, but James, this isn't where you started. You have wound up in California, but my friend, you started this journey all the way in Ottawa, Canada. You and I are Canadians. We share this.
That's right. I was born in Ottawa and grew up in a little farming community just south of Ottawa on the Long Island in the middle of the Rideau River. I was raised on an island in the Rideau River. And so cow fields across the road from us and river in the backyard. And the most trouble we could get into was falling off our bike and skinning our knee. So
very cool.
That's where I grew up. And my adventure has taken me over the years to 4 different countries on 3 different continents.
Incredible, man. Incredible. So my audience here is small business owners, as we've talked about, and they're wanting to build an incredible website that draws attention, that gets people to them. So we're going to dive into some of the tactics, or what you love to call the hub and spoke concept of marketing that's really going to help them get there. Because your knowledge is incredible, James. Your work, my friends, his work is amazing. If you want to see some beautiful websites, go take a look at Innately's portfolio. It's beautiful. But before we dive into that though, James, I want to find out, how does a person studying music in university find their way into marketing? I'm fascinated by this. So how did that actually happen?
Well, when you graduate from university with a Bachelor of Music, Procter & Gamble is not knocking on your door.
True.
And I've been very involved in the entertainment scene on campus. I went to Queen's University, and I parlayed that into 6 years working in the rock and roll industry on the production side of things.
Okay, cool.
Stage managing, production managing, road managing, that kind of thing.
And I'll bet you got some interesting story. Who did you work with? Anybody recognizable, James?
Well, I worked with a lot of people who are recognizable. But the key group that makes sense here, how did I end up in marketing? I spent a lot of time working with a Canadian band called Rush.
Oh my gosh, no way.
And Geddy Lee, who's the leader of Rush, is an extremely intelligent guy, very smart about music and what he does, but also very smart about business.
Okay.
And we had several conversations about business and how Rush was one of the very first bands in the world that was completely vertically integrated.
What do you mean by that?
They owned their own publishing. They owned their own record company. They owned their own sound and lights. They owned their own trucks.
Okay.
And when they weren't touring, they were renting their sound and lights and trucks to other bands that were touring. They used their record label to end up signing other artists to their record label. So they controlled their destiny. They weren't giving their money away to everybody else. They were controlling their own destiny. They were vertically integrated. It's like a manufacturer who also owns the farms.
I love it. I had
Right? A
no idea.
manufacturer who also owns the trucks that ship out. Manufacturer who also owns the retail stores.
Right.
That's another example of vertical integration.
And so you learned a ton about marketing.
Well,
in
it
this
opened my
venture.
mind. I don't know that I learned a lot about it, but it just opened my mind to, there may be something I can do with my experience. So at the ripe old age of 30, I had just completed a 6-month-long project working on the US Festival, which was a big, giant multi-day festival outside of Los Angeles.
Okay, nice.
That's when David Bowie returned to touring, and there was, lots of bands of that caliber involved. And I thought, I just don't want to do this for the rest of my life. So I need to make a change. I need to pivot. Didn't know it was called a pivot back then, but I needed to make a change. So I managed to get myself a job as a junior account executive at the Toronto office of a New York agency called Ted Bates.
Okay.
My mother was very happy.
I that name rings a bell to me, Ted Bates.
Ted Bates is a very old agency. It doesn't exist anymore, but one of the previous leaders of Ted Bates was a guy named Rosser Reeves. And Rosser Reeves was the fellow who came up with the idea of the USP.
Okay.
So the USP is in my genes. It was drilled into me from the very early stages. And that's how I ended up in advertising.
And by USP, just to frame it for everybody, that means unique selling proposition, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Unique selling proposition. A classic example is the Miller beer campaign. Tastes great, less filling.
Okay. Yeah. Right? Love it.
So that's how I ended up getting pivoted into marketing and advertising. And one of the characteristics that makes you successful in music is a balanced brain. Music is a very logical and linear thing.
Sure.
And yet to perform well, it has to be interpreted in a lateral way.
Okay.
The blues is like 4 or 5 chords, right? It's the same 4 or 5 chords that everybody uses, but the musicians can interpret that. And so that's the left brain and the right brain operating in concert with each other and not one dominating the other. And that's a common characteristic amongst musicians. And it's also what makes marketing very effective, is being able to understand the discipline of marketing, but interpret it in a lateral way, in a creative way.
I love that, James. I've never heard somebody put that so actually succinctly because of that frame of reference, right? I love that. Okay. So, I mean, to rephrase what you're saying basically is that one of the reasons that as a musician, marketing came so seamlessly to you was because you have a set of principles, and they are this basic set of principles that are related to one another and they integrate. But how you assemble those principles,
how you interpret, how you use, how you execute, how you bend the notes.
Totally. So this is why then you're so phenomenal at the website work, right, James? I mean, this is why your company, because you were working big corporate for a while, then jumped into this level.
Right. About 10 years ago, this was supposed to be my semi-retirement. I had been running the digital budget for Toyota.
Okay.
In Northern California. It was a multi-7-figure budget, and lots of fun stuff. But that, I wanted, all my experience in marketing and my understanding of the way things were going, the website really truly is a pivotal piece in this online world. And most of them are terrible. And it's not about being pretty.
Okay.
I mean, when I do website audits, more often than not, the pretty websites are the worst websites.
Okay.
The key thing that's missing more often than not in effective websites is strategy.
So you and I are talking the same language now,
Right?
Because, and I think that's one of the reasons why you're so uniquely qualified to talk about this, James, is because you're a person with a great depth of marketing knowledge and experience applying that to the art form of building websites. Whereas a lot of people are out there, a lot of small business owners watching this or listening to this right now, they have bought a website from a website designer,
right,
whose main education is on building beauty.
It's on design principles, and there's nothing wrong with design principles. That's really important. However, when you think about it from the outside in, from the point of view of the consumer, the consumer is on a journey. And that journey is about solving their problems. And if you can craft the messaging on your website and craft the structure of your website so you are supporting their journey, then suddenly it stops being a sales mechanism and starts becoming a partnership. And given the importance of the website in this digital world, amplified by the recent pandemic and the fact that people were stuck at home and the only way they could get anything was to go to somebody's website. And the fact that even in professional services, where most of their businesses is by referral, people, I hear this frequently from professional services folks, lawyers and accountants and consultants and coaches and that sort of thing. I don't get any business from my website.
Oh, all the time, constantly. Right.
But what I point out to them is you can't see the null set. You can't see all of the people who heard about you, went to your website to confirm that you understood their problem and could help them. And you were shouting at them about your years of experience and the number of widgets that you have and the number of partners in your firm and all this stuff. They don't care about that. They need to know whether or not you can solve their problem.
They're not at that stage of their journey.
Right.
They're not interested in your CV. They don't care. Right.
To some extent, that's a good point. But to some extent, if they didn't think you were capable, they probably wouldn't go in the first place.
I love that, James, because then we can, as business owners, we can confidently assume, right, that we don't have to convince. We can just confidently assume that they're here because they trust the person that told them to go, or they trust the person, the referral, or they trust the Google search engines or wherever found their way to our website.
Right. So their key thing at this point is, do you understand my problem? I'll give you an example. One of my customers is a dude named Craig. Craig was a New York State senator. And he did not get reelected. He was a lawyer, so he decided to put out a shingle as a lobbyist, but he wasn't getting any traction. So through a referral, he reached out to me, and I went and reviewed his website, and I said, Craig, you're talking about yourself. He said, well, yes, that's who they hire. They hire me. I said, yes, but that's not where they are when they get to the website. When they get to the website, they want to understand that you understand their problem. Then they want to understand that you potentially have a solution for their problem.
Right.
Reason to believe comes next. Then they want to know, are you credible? That's when you get to talk about yourself.
Right.
But it's in the context of that hierarchy. And you're talking about yourself from the point of view of you're providing reasons to believe that the solution you're proposing will solve their problem. I've just worked back up the stream.
That's so important for people to understand. Like, my friends, when you're watching or listening to this, what James just said is so critical, right? There's a stages of what the customer is, what the prospect is thinking about. the narrative that's going on inside their brain.
Right.
And if
Journey
your
they're
website,
on.
and if your website is not laid out according to that journey, there's a disconnect, there's a dissonance, to use a musical term, right?
Yes, that's
Between
exactly right.
what their vibration is and what your website is giving them. And that's probably why it's not converting the way that you would want it to or expect it to.
Right. I'll give you another example. I coach a professional public speaker. She's a paid keynote speaker. She's well known, et cetera. Her website was a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
So we spent a lot of time talking about who her target audience was.
And I'll bet she had trouble with that.
No, she didn't. She's a smart woman. She listened. She trusted me.
No, I meant that she probably didn't know who her target audience was. I'll bet
not in terms of what we're about to talk about. No.
Yeah. Okay.
And when it came right down to it, she had 3 target audiences.
Okay.
She was her USP was she's very entertaining. She dresses in costumes. She has characters.
Fun.
She has voices. She can present and communicate ideas in a way that people actually connect with because of the way she does it.
Yeah, love it.
But her 3 audiences are event organizers. These are really project managers who are, I need a keynote speaker who is entertaining and can follow directions well and is a professional, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
She had another group that she worked with, who are corporate HR directors. Couldn't be more different from a people point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Corporate HR directors are looking for a resource that can come into their corporation and help teach their executive leadership teams how to be better communicators.
Completely different problem that the prospect needs solved.
Exactly. Yet her proposition could still solve it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then the third audience is primarily female executives who found themselves in leadership positions, found themselves on stages, and they didn't know how to be an effective public speaker. Okay. So part of the exercise with the website was to create pathways for each of these audiences so they could recognize, this piece is for me.
Love it.
Because that supported their journey. That they arrived on the website and they saw a very entertaining presentation, very competent people. Another trick I do with speakers, they typically will feature pictures of themselves in the hero section of their website.
Of course.
Right? Speaking. And my point is, if they didn't think you were a competent speaker, they wouldn't be at the website.
Once again, assuming confidence of what they're there for. Yeah. Okay.
Right. Well, it's assuming that they got there by a referral of some sort.
Sure.
Okay. So a much more effective speaker is going to be a picture from behind you, over your shoulder, perhaps still seeing your profile, but showing an audience that's highly engaged and leaning forward and paying attention to what you're saying.
Yeah, I love it. Yep.
Because visually, that's the problem that the audience, that your prospective customers is trying to solve.
In other words, put a different way, that's the result that they're hoping you deliver.
That's right.
Is that audience, that engaged, excited, bursting audience that walk away going, what an event. This was incredible.
Right. And you think about those 3 subsegments that I described, each one of those 3 subsegments at a high level, that's the problem they're trying to solve. But who they are as people, what their needs are, et cetera, very different.
Right.
So if she leads with that messaging at the top, she creates 3 clear pathways for people to choose. They choose a pathway and they're telling the website, they're telling the business who they are, and they're giving the business permission to tell them more information.
I love that. And I love the fact that you term them as pathways, James. I think that's such an important piece of this website story, is that people are on a journey. Inherently, there's a part of the jungle they're walking through that they'll never go to.
Right.
So as a business owner, why is your website so busy trying to tell them every part of the forest when they're not on that path?
Right.
They're not there at all. I love it.
Yeah. And you want to make that pathway clear, because if you can get them to click that engagement event, it's like you're probably not old enough to remember this, but back in the day, the Hare Krishna used to be in shopping malls.
No, I'm not that old. No.
And they would hand you a flower.
Okay.
And if you accepted the flower, an engagement event,
Sure.
you were giving them permission to talk to them.
It's the same thing as you go at Christmas time. I love that, because at Christmas time you go through the malls and there's those kiosks and there's people going, I mean, they haven't with COVID, obviously, but they're like, would you like to try this hand lotion? Would you like to try this? It's the same thing, right? Just rub it on. It's the same thing. Okay.
And what's happening when you accept that engagement event inside the pathway is what I was saying before about you're accepting the flower. You're saying, this is who I am, and I am willing to listen to you.
Right. I love it.
So the place for the more detailed information is not on the homepage. The purpose of the homepage is to engage your audience. The place for the more detailed information is on the landing page that they go to after they click some pathway on the homepage.
And they choose their path.
I
love it. Okay. So let's now, with our time we've got left, James, because that is such an incredibly powerful set of principles that people should be looking at their websites with, or hire James's company. You guys reach out, hire James's company. You'll see all the socials in the YouTube Reddit down below. Now, as we dive into this, though, James, you've got some really critical information for people on this concept of hub and spoke marketing.
Yeah.
And when you frame this image for me, this concept for me, I obviously I fell in love with it, but I think it illustrates one of the chief challenges, and I've referenced this in my own work on YouTube and my other channels, that companies tend to get, and entrepreneurs tend to get obsessive over tactics of marketing, and they forget about strategy.
Right.
And I think your hub and spoke image and that metaphor speaks to this so beautifully. So can you jump into what this means so our audience can pull that away?
Right. Well, it ties in a few of the things we've already talked about.
For sure.
But I'll give you one quick line that kind of creates a headline for this. Digital marketing tactics in isolation are expensive noise.
Love it.
The
time expensive and money expensive.
Yes, just expensive in all ways and shapes. The power comes from the connection. If you think about a wheel has several parts.
Okay.
There's a hub, right? There are spokes.
Yes, you got your props. I love it. Okay.
I got a rim around here someplace as well. There's a rim. Individually, right? They're nice, but they don't have much value.
Okay.
You connect them together, and you have the most fundamental invention in the history of mankind. The wheel. So what you've got, and how you take this back into digital marketing, your website is the hub. It's where you maximize the power of what you're doing. The spokes are your digital marketing tactics and channels and that sort of thing.
So these would be things like Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, SEO.
Exactly. Email marketing, social media, organic social media, paid social media. There's myriad of the tactics.
Absolutely. Okay.
And then the rim, the piece that holds it all together, is your content and messaging strategy. And how you select what your content and messaging strategy is going to be, what your spokes are going to be, and what you're going to say on the website, you need to deeply understand your prime prospects. So the inherent underpinning of the hub and spoke strategy, first of all, gives you a way to connect things together and gives you a way to maximize the value, the mutual value, the value for your customers as well as the value for your business. But how do you pick them? That starts by doing a spending a bunch of time really doing an analysis of your best customers, what they're like demographically. And the demographics can be very helpful when you're choosing media channels.
For sure.
If they're over 40, don't spend money on TikTok.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
You want to understand.
For now.
It might change. It might change. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not passing judgment. It's a perfectly valid channel. But I mean, you can't be all things to all people. So
yes,
understand the demographics of your audience. Is it gender neutral? Is it more female? Is it more male?
Yep.
Understand their attitudes. Are they, demographics might speak to education. Attitudes might fall out of that. Are they open-minded? Are they cynical? Are they, harried? Demographics, they're homemakers, right? Stay-at-home moms.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to lead to certain attitude characteristics, and that sort of thing. So you've got demographics and you've got attitudes.
Another term might be like psychographics. Is that what you're getting into?
Psychographics is another word for it. I prefer attitudes because it's a little less fancy.
Okay.
It's a little more real because that's truly what you're getting at here is, because what the attitudes do help you with is how to talk to these people.
Yeah.
Who are they?
What they find important.
Well, yeah. And are they, are they rational? Are they emotional?
That's a great question, James. I hadn't thought about asking that question before, especially in relationship to your USP. Are they rational around your business's USP? They might be really rational when it comes to buying a car, but completely irrational when it comes to buying a pair of shoes or a purse.
Or vice versa. They might be completely, no rational human being is going to buy a BMW. Right?
Fair. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Fair point. Yep. It doesn't make sense for what they're we're using it for. Yes.
Exactly. They could get everywhere that you need to get in a Camry just fine. Thank you very much.
Yes. That's so funny. Yeah. Okay.
That's where the balance between demographics and attitudes really makes it matter. And then the bottom left-hand quadrant in your XY is pain. What's their pain? Mm-hmm. What's the problem they're trying to solve?
Yeah.
Write it down.
Yeah.
Understand it.
Especially in relationship, you guys, to what you offer.
Well, that's the next quadrant, right? Is what's the gain that they can get by working with you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But understand the order that I put things in.
Yep. Demographics, attitudes
helps you understand what media channels to be in. Attitudes helps you understand how to talk to people. Their pain helps you understand what to say to them.
And then the final quadrant.
And the gain is the solution that you're going to propose. But that order is really important. And that order affects, and then the way the next step is map the customer journey in detail and recognize that the first purchase is not at the end of the journey.
And what I think is also important to add to that too, James, so and riff on that for a second, is that it's the client journey, not your journey with the client.
No, it's
because by the time they show up to, like, for example, in the pet business, by the time they show up to my desk to buy dog or cat food or to get grooming services or whatever, they've been through several stages of this journey already.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Sorry, just interrupted.
And the first purchase is not the end of the journey. It's about 2/3 of the way through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny. I did an episode just the other day on referrals and going and referencing the idea of how powerful after the yes is, like that moment after the yes. And what are you doing in that moment after they say yes to something? And as you put it with the Krishnas, right? There's many yes moments long before there's the yes, here's my credit card moment.
That's correct. And also, if you think about interest in the problem they're solving, it looks like a bell curve. And the first purchase is at the top of the bell curve, but that doesn't mean their interest has gone away. Okay. There's a huge opportunity immediately after first purchase in their journey to acknowledge them, to tell them they've made a good choice,
Yes.
to build what I call relationship equity. That's value that goes on beyond the transactional and functional benefits of the product or service.
I love it. And
And in a retail situation, a great example of that kind of thing is checkout staff being friendly to customers and offering to help them take their bag to the
take it to the car. Yeah.
Take it to the car. It's not part of the transaction. It's value that goes beyond the transaction. It's unexpected, and it builds relationship equity. Oh, those people are so nice.
Exactly. It's one of the reasons that I love, and I have this hourglass in my office, because I'm like, your business is an hourglass. You are attracting all of these people at the top end of the hourglass, right? And they start to flow through.
Right.
But if your hourglass has no bottom part, in other words, that bell curve you're just referencing, if it doesn't expand here and grow with the client, right, you're just dropping them out of the bottom. And that relationship equity, that ability to keep them coming back to go, okay, cool, they've gone through, let's pull them back through again, right? That evaporates on companies.
Right. And that's why I make the point that the first sale is not at the end of the journey. It's 2/3 of the way through. Because the reality is you're much more likely to generate a sale from an existing customer than you are to generate a sale from a brand new customer.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And the sorts of things that I'm talking about, when I was working in loyalty programs for large corporations, and we had big budgets, we had sponsored some research, and the researcher who was presenting the output of the research study was standing in front of the room. This is a guy who's specialized in loyalty research. Typical budget for one of these things might be $100K to do one of these research studies. This is a big deal stuff. And he stood there and said something that had a profound impact on me. He said 90% of loyalty problems can be traced to a flawed sales process.
Really?
Yep.
So that transactional moment, that moment where they buy,
and why they bought, and the process that was used. This is why the journey, the funnel, the top half of your hourglass. I don't like the funnel either, but people are familiar with it.
Yep.
You've got top of funnel and you've got bottom of funnel, and where the opportunity to make the sales process really, really sing is in the mid funnel. That's where you start to build the know, like, and trust.
Yep.
That's where, and then so when what you want is at the sale point, it's not so much a sale as a next logical choice.
Yeah. What's the next after the yes? What's that
and
next?
And then the opportunity that exists post that sale is that loyal customers can contribute revenue to your business 5 ways.
Okay.
The longer they stay, the more return on investment you're getting from the initial acquisition cost.
Yep, for sure.
The longer they stay, the better they understand your product and service, lower support costs.
Yep.
The longer they stay, they understand your value proposition. You don't have to bribe them to buy again.
Okay, cool. Love it. Yeah.
The longer they stay, the more relationship they have with you, the more likely they are to see your other advertising and marketing, more likely to buy other products and services.
Beautiful.
And the longer they stay, the more engaged they are, the more likely they are to refer other people to you.
Yeah. Love it.
Right.
And for small businesses, James, this is one of their biggest failures. I have found sitting across from them, either the table or the Zoom meeting, whatever it is, they're so obsessed with acquiring a new client. And I keep saying to them, that is your most expensive way of earning the next sale. Right. And it's the most risky and it's the most expensive. And if that is your primary focus,
right,
you are leaking sales constantly because you're not ingratiating yourself with the relationship you've already built.
Right. And if you take it and extend it back the other way, if you really understand who your best customers are, what they look like demographically, what they look like from an attitude point of view, what their problems are, and how you're solving their problems, that becomes ways you can improve your actual acquisition marketing.
Sure.
because it feeds on itself.
And one of the best ways to do that is to get to know these people you've already acquired as clients that you love to work with. Beautiful. James, this has been fabulous, my friend. I've had a wonderful time. I think people are going to get, it's a fire hose of information. It's a lot. And all of these principles can be applied phenomenally. But as we wrap things up, I want to give you the chance. Where can people find you, and what's the best way to take the first step with your awesome company?
Well, given how important the website is and how bad most websites are, one of the things that I offer to folks, to listeners to your podcasts, and this normally has a sale value of $500,
okay,
is a complimentary 6 seconds or less website audit. The reality in this day and age is you have 6 seconds or less to engage a website visitor. 6 seconds is not very much time.
No.
And I've developed 6 ways that we look at websites, and I'll do a 6 seconds or less website audit. And to sign up for that, go to 6secondsorless.com.
Beautiful.
That's
I love it.
6secondsorless.com, and you can book some time on my calendar, and we'll go through your website. And I have yet to audit a website where I can't add value.
Cool, James. I want to say thank you so much. Speaking of adding value, this has been tremendous. I really appreciate this. So here's my next thing. Can we have you back? Can I have you back on the Marketing Wizards Inner Circle?
I'd love to. I'd love to come back and talk about the 5 relationship marketing principles.
Okay. Well, mark that, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to get James back, and he's going to talk about the 5 marketing or relationship marketing principles and how to put those into play. Thank you so much, James. This has been fantastic. I hope you got great value out of today, you guys. If you did, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share this with a friend, get that 6secondsorless.com, hit up James for some information. Once again, thank you so much, Mr. Hipkin. It has been fabulous. And until next time, my friends, have an incredible week, and I will see you all next week in the Marketing Wizards Inner Circle. Thank you so much. Ciao for now.